So I want to talk about unconscious mindsets. When we are high capacity, which we all are, when we have a natural strength and drive to woo, to do these things that engage other humans, when we view life in a linear path as that stack of cards, not only do we put that pressure on ourselves, but guess what? We put it on other people, which means that we're seeing life as either this or that, as opposing forces, right? And anytime you have opposing forces as opposed to simply organic flows, then you're going to pursue conflict unconsciously. And when you pursue conflict unconsciously, you produce conflicting results that is going to produce pain. I mentioned earlier that the mindset we want to have is that of an entrepreneur. The point is not the title or the role of an entrepreneur, but it is the mindset that an entrepreneur has when they do go out to do things on their own. Because all an entrepreneur is an autonomous being who is creating. So the difference between mindsets of entrepreneurs and, let's say, employees. We all have experiences as employees, as being part of teams and all of that, right? So one thought is that when we're an employee, when we're looking for a good job, we're looking for security, right? We're looking for safety. We're looking for benefits. We need, look, take care of me. Help me be safe, right? So we've got security on one side. But guess what an entrepreneur wants? An entrepreneur wants freedom, right? We talked about that right at the beginning, is this idea of freedom. But then we run into the cognitive dissonance here. This will represent that, where we like the idea of freedom, but we are self-programmed and predispositioned to want security. So these conflict with one another when it comes to prioritization and decision-making. Another one as it relates to accountability, right? We talked about this a little bit earlier. So an employee, we need to, in many ways, and expect to and want to be held accountable, right? There is nothing worse than being a part of a team and the leader of said team has zero expectations for us. It's like, well, why did you hire me? What do you want me to actually do? What am I here to do, right? Because as an employee mindset, we expect to be held accountable. Now, this conflicts a little bit because with an entrepreneur mindset, they're self-accountable. It's self-accountability. I have to be my own boss. I have to be both the right boss and the right employee for myself, right? And so where it comes to the internalizing of prioritized value, this is a big cognitive dissonance that I know I have to really deal with. This becomes hard because of the unconscious mindset where it's easier to be accountable to other people than it is to be ourselves. Another mindset, saying no versus saying yes. Now, as an employee, and I want to say we can shift these words to other phrases too, right? Because as an employee, as a community member, as a volunteer, as a daughter, like you can put literally any role that you want in these categories, and I promise you, they're going to come up the same, okay? But we want to say, I'm sorry, I put the wrong thing there. We want to say yes here. We are dispositioned and programmed to say yes, yes, yes. Why? Because first of all, I know for me, the more that I could do, the more that I could contribute equated to my personal value. I'm like, hey, if I can do more, meaning I can fix more or help more, I must be more. I am worth more. I am more valuable to the whole, right? Is that a common phrase? Yeah, okay. So because that is a common mindset and it serves us well in this role, let's not forget there is no thought that we have ever adopted that did not serve us in some form of our life. We have to remember that, because when we remember that, we avoid downing ourselves or judging ourselves or saying, oh, you were stupid for thinking that. Why did you even, like, oh, this is wrong. I need to pull this out. No, we need to honor and hold space and understand our mindsets, how they have served us, and with compassion and love, acknowledge we're ready for a different mindset, for a different cycle that needs to serve a different purpose. And it is time to close out the project of these. Okay. Whereas employees are struggling with how much can I say yes? An entrepreneur is trying to figure out, what do I need to say no to? Where are all the no's that we need to say? Right? Because an entrepreneur mind is one of creation. And when we create, we need our energy, we need our money, we need our time to be in alignment so that it can actually create. That means we have a different relationship with time. We have a different relationship with energetic expenditure. And so our yeses are at a premium and our no's have to be really consistent, right? There's a challenge there, isn't it? Another one, let's look at DIY versus delegate. So DIY, do it yourself. Baby, let me tell you something, especially coming from a nonprofit environment, we did everything ourselves, okay? I was the project manager, the lead organizer, the executive director, the trainer, the fundraiser, the grant writer, everything. Why? Because the value that I said was, I have more access to my own time and I can expend it in whatever way that I want versus asking someone else to do it or versus getting help to do it. It served me at some point until it didn't. Okay. And the reason that it doesn't is because this mindset of do it yourself has an inherent devaluation, like time. Like the relationship between time is not one that is really strong here. Okay. Whereas delegation, the mindset of an entrepreneur understands that there are absolutely certain things that only I can do. Based on your strengths, Maureen, there are certain things that literally only you can do. It's your magic. It's your gift. Regina, there are certain things that your top 5 strengths, your unique combination is perfectly positioned to do that only you can do. But we don't know what those things are, and we're not able to say yes to those things because we're not saying no enough to the things that other people can do. So, for example, when I think about what it takes to create content for Hive Over Matter, or what it takes to be in relationship with other individuals, the way that you all were even pulled into my sphere of existence, and I am so grateful for, right? Is just how that worked is I realized that I was putting my time and my energy into things that could be outsourced, and they were not my strengths. They were not my strengths. They were taking up way more time and energy and mental joy. Like it was eating my joy. I couldn't sustain it because I didn't want to do it because I'm trying to make myself do things I'm not good at. Versus recognizing, okay, what is the thing that is my spark and my magic that no one can do? I'm gonna tell you what it is. No one can have the exact same connection that I have to spirit to translate project management into what I'm doing, right? I have to first create this. I have to first get it out. And then once I get it out, it is delegatable. It is reteachable. It is shareable. But writing an email, editing a video, scheduling things. I don't need to do those things, right? Like there is AI tools for that. There is technology for that. There are ways for me to free myself from what someone else can do. If someone else can do it, I don't need to do it. And I need to figure out how to say no to it and how to solve for it. Like that becomes the mindset of an entrepreneur. Okay, so let's look at safety versus risk. So this is kind of similar to this one, right? Like security and freedom kind of inherently, we want to be safe. Like we want to know that we're doing it right, that the choice that we make will in fact produce the result that we wanted, right? Um, the issue with that is that there's absolutely no way to technically know because of what is life. It's an experiment. It's an experience, right? And so the difference between this mindset of seeking out safety, because when you seek out safety, it's going to shrink the choices that you make. It's going to prohibit the movement that you're willing to make because safety is also related to familiarity. Whereas risk, in an experiment, there is inherent risk. It's like accepting that, oh, this is the experiment. Like, this is what I'm here to do. So I need to manage risk, which is why there's an entire work, like a session on risk management as a tool that we want to be able to practice and put in place. When you think about time, the relationship we're going to have with time and with resources ultimately shift, okay? Because with an employee, they're thinking about time as a fixed thing, right? We think to ourselves, we have 9 to 5 hours a day that we can work, or we have, these blocks of time that we can do it. And it becomes also limiting and rigid because it's difficult to understand how to collapse time, how to set up systems that allows things to happen while maybe through delegation, while you're doing something else, right? Like, so the layers of how to maximize time is not really achievable with a fixed mindset of time versus an entrepreneurial mindset is a flexible time management situation. Now, this is interesting. This gets tricky, right? Because I teach practices, principles, technology, certain things, time blocking, right? Things that we do. Being organized is not the same as being inflexible. It's the opposite, okay? To actually be flexible means you have to have an understanding of the limit, the scope, and the time that can be flexed. What is the count, right? Count is the core of accountability. Let me count up what I have to spend, to move, to shift around. The only way to do that is to be organized enough to be able to take account of different things. When you can take account of different things, now you have the flexibility to reallocate, to shift them around, to delegate. When you have a fixed perspective of time that is immovable, right? You have no desire or really need to be organized because it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like you're going to show up, this is what it is. And, you'll be held accountable by external sources. And that's just what that is. And so it makes being flexible actually feel really, really difficult when it doesn't have to be because you're trying to do it out of a fixed mindset. Those are the mindset resets that I want us to set intentions on for this year, right? It's basically going from these to these. And because life is a cycle, and because all of these are projects, we can lean into this with the permission and with the expectation that this will be a progressive of gaining, of shift, where as we start to recognize how these are showing up in our lives through awareness, and we can give ourselves some grace for them, and we can get curious about how they have served us, right? Then we can start to debunk the fear of shifting, changing them, because we also know, what do we want to have, right? Like, what do we want to create?